wins in one. Dillian Whyte gets it right this time around.
Next controversy. Hi everyone, it's Dave here from Boxing Updates. Hope everyone's well. Just wanted to have a bit of a sit down because I'm sat down, but I wanted to have a bit of a chat about boxing over the last week, some of the things that have happened, some of the news that's come in. One of the big things is for me anyway, is Moses Ituama versus Dillian Whyte. Really, really looking forward to that fight. I think it's a really good matchup as well, and I think it's brave. There's no arguing that Moses is, on everyone's lips. Fury, see you set.
You big shithouse bum dosser.
We're all talking about him being the future of boxing, and I think, he's done nothing to disprove that so far. He's done everything right. He looks brilliant. So we don't really need to go into that. Dillian Whyte's the interesting one for me. Aside from the fact that at his peak, sort of around 2020, a bit earlier maybe, certainly he was always in the top 4, top 5 even. He was number 4 ranked in the ring for about 3 or 4 years. And, I think everyone knows about the fact that he was mandatory on the WBC for such a long time and got ignored. Well, you can read into that what you want. But, at his best, great fighter, but excellent fighter. Really, really good body puncher. Good to the head, that left hook, brutal punches, comes to fight. He's been in some crackers, he's got some really good wins. The win against Parker, he's beat Chisora twice. First fight was brilliant, very close. It felt like his chance came a bit late, which was a shame. Maybe I always thought he could have done Wilder. But either way. But since the Fury fight, there's been controversy, there's been the banned substances, and his opponents have been sort of maybe less than inspiring. He's not looked great. But is that a case of the stuff that he's going through and the difficulties and maybe not being up for it? Certainly this is going to be a fight that he will be up for. So if there is anything left in him, we may well see a good turnout. But then we might not. You don't know. It's going to be interesting as we get on. It'll be interesting to see what shape he's in. I think that will probably depict how serious he's taken this. He may just be there for a payday, but I really hope he's not. And if he isn't, then we've got an interesting matchup. And I think, like I said, brave. If a lot of people are right and he's past it, then maybe just a punching bag and a decent name on his ledger. However, it could be a good fight and a real good test for Moses. So I'm really looking forward to that one. Also on that card, dead interesting for me anyway. I don't know if other people agree, but the Hrgovic versus David Adayel fight. Really, I just think that's a good matchup. I think it'll be a great fight. I think Hrgovic will win. He's better proven, but he's hittable. I think they'll both come there to fight. I think it'll be a blinder, that. I'm really looking forward to it. I think Hrgovic will win. I have already mentioned this, that I'm maybe not the most reliable at predicting fights. Although just worth remembering, Wardley Honey, I pretty much predicted exactly what was going to happen. So anyway, don't get just. You make your minds up, but Hrgovic is going to win. That's great news, great fight. Can't wait for that. And the card itself looks brilliant, so I'm looking forward to that. Next, controversy with Turki Al-Sheikh making some comments that have ruffled a few feathers. Some people have got very angry about, some people agree with. And from this point on, he has said, I don't want to see any more Tom and Jerry type boxing matches where one fighter is running around the ring and the other is chasing him. We can no longer support these kind of fights with Riyadh Season in the ring. We want to support fighters who leave it all in the ring and fight with their heart and pride. And at the end of that, he has put 3 boxing glove emojis, so that he means it. He means business, and I think it's caused that divide because there are people who've spoke up and saying, boxing is about hitting and not being hit, and that's true, exactly true. And there's different types of fighters, isn't there? And you kind of this running thing, which it gets a bit tired. Mayweather would throw between 400 and 500 punches a fight, and he had a very, very high connection rate compared to average anyway. This is clearly, for me, targeted at the recent New York card, which was let's be honest, overall was a bit of a stinker, and. The Haney fight for one, around 200 punches thrown, it was dreadful, just awful. So I think that comment is targeted at that, and even Bill Haney has come out in response to that. And that is, I think, fair, because They owe us. They owe fans because it's a professional sport. Like any professional sport, it's funded by fans. However that funding materialises, that's where it comes from. There is an obligation, I always think, for boxers to, it's up to them really, but they're here to impress us and to get us as fans and make us put our hands in our pockets. And you're not going to do that potentially for a fight like that. And someone like Turkey puts on a card that will have cost a bomb. And then for that to happen, he'll be pissed, won't he? He won't be happy. I won't be happy. It's maybe not the bestly worded tweet, but, doesn't have to apologise, does he? It's his opinion. There is this movement, isn't there, to change the rules? I don't see what that's going to do. I don't think you could quantify running either. On backpedaling, it's very hard. It's going to be very hard for a referee to manage that. I sort of agree. I don't want to see fights like that. I don't expect everyone to stand in the pocket and take lumps out of each other, as great as that is to watch. But you don't want to see a fight like that. No one does, surely. So the next thing I want to talk about, it's not really news particularly. There's nothing certainly being reported on that's any differently, but it's about the Crawford Canelo fight, and I find it really interesting. Certainly in terms of weight. Simply put, he's obviously moving up 2 divisions, and whilst that in itself isn't the most marvellous and miraculous of things, boxers all the time now, it's kind of a prerequisite that you're expected if you're at elite level to jump weight divisions. So that's not a great thing, and he already has. He's already come up from lightweight to light middleweight. But we're having a jump of 2 divisions, and I just wanted to look back, physically at his size. He turned pro when he was 20. Okay, in 2014, he wins his first world title. So he turned pro at light welter but drops down to lightweight, and he beats Ricky Burns at 135. 2015 he moves up to light welter. 2018 he moves up to welter. 2024 he's there for 6 years at welter. He moves up to light middleweight, so that's a jump to 154. Okay, that's a reasonable jump, and it's not it's not out of the realms, and it's fighters have done very similar. And now though we're talking about that jump another 2 divisions to 168, and as the divisions go up the jumps get bigger. So we're looking at him essentially putting on 33 pounds of body weight, just at the division's limit. That's what we're looking at. So we've gone from 135 to 168. That's 33 pounds. And if you look at it from a perspective, he's 20. He's had a 17-year career. In that 17 years, he'll have put on 33 pounds of weight. That's not fat. That's pure effective muscle. Okay, so that's 33 pounds he's put on, which is 24% of his original body weight. So just that, keeping that figure in mind. Now Canelo has also jumped up in weight. He's even gone as high as light heavyweight, although he wasn't at his best there, which I think is why he's settled back down to where he is. Canelo, interestingly, turned pro at light welterweight but he was 15, and you're a kid when you're 15, so that weight at that age isn't really representative of what you're doing. Your body's still growing, you're still getting bigger. So when we look at him to compare, and I know it's very straightforward and simplistic, but at the age of 20, Canelo was at 154. So in reality, since the age of 20 to now, he's moved up 2 divisions. When we look at Pacquiao, for example, Pacquiao's a really good example because he's known, his career through jumping through the weight divisions and 8 different weight divisions, etc., and, miraculous what he's done, which is why a lot of people have suggested and accused him of taking peds and stuff, because it's so hard to understand how someone can do it. Pacquiao started out at 106, okay, so very small. But again, similar to Canelo, he was a young boy, he was 16 years old. If we then jump up to when Pacquiao is 20 years old, so at 20 years old, he's now at super bantamweight. So that's where he's jumped up. So that's 122. He then moves up in his career, and he fights at highest for the 154 title. But obviously that's at catchweight at 150, and he comes in at 144. So the reality is, from the age of 20 to his highest weight division, he's jumped up from 122 to 144. So that's 22 pounds. That represents a 20% increase in body size, and that's where the difference is. I know it's generalised, but he's jumped up 20%. But Crawford, apologies, he's going to be jumping up 24%. So Pacquiao's jumped up 20. Crawford's going to be jumping up 24. So it's a massive. Pacquiao is seen as this like freak of nature for what he achieved. Yet Crawford's essentially going to be doing more, and no one's really reporting on that. We're just kind of almost just looking at a light middleweight jumping up to super middleweight. But he's jumping up to super middleweight with no restrictions. There's nothing. We've just had the Eubank Ben fight with all them conditions and stuff, and obviously Eubanks ended up getting a hefty fine. So for me, that is just a really interesting point, and that is something I don't know how that's going to play out. I don't know how much of an impact that's going to make. Only Crawford in his camp, no. You know, he may be very comfortable. He looks comfortable at the weight, but it will be very interesting to see how that plays out on the night and whether that is a bridge too far. But you know, if he does it, it's what a legacy fight. You know, hopefully that'll be probably a good reason to sort of end your career there. Really healthy, fit, loaded, and an all-time great. But yeah, it's really interesting for me, and it'd be interesting to see what people think. Am I just getting too focused on the numbers, or have I got a point? I think it's a big jump. Other news: Optaya. Recently, good news. Claudio Squio seems to be on the mend and doing well. The reason I mentioned Optaya is Benavidez has kind of been talking out a little bit about him recently. And obviously Benavidez, I think, is very frustrated, and rightly so. He kind of, you know, there's this whole Bivol Betrabev thing going on where he's sidelined, and, you know, there's always whatever you want to make of the Canelo situation. He never got that fight that he wanted. So he's mentioned now about, you know, he said on social media that in terms of Jay Optaya, let's make it happen. And he's talked about moving up to cruiserweight. You know, I don't know about that. I think Benavidez is a cracking fighter. Optaya is a beast, and he's a heavyweight. Let's be honest. You know, he's boiling down to cruiserweight. He's coming in at around the 210, 212 mark. So interesting. I think it'd be a mistake on Benavidez's part. I think, as crap as it is, I think he needs to settle back and just wait for the Bivol fight, the next one, if whatever happens with that, or maybe Canelo. I don't know, but there are other fights out there I think are a lot less dangerous. But, you know, credit to him. He's clearly pissed off. He clearly wants the big fights, and if that's where he's got to go, that's where he's got to go. I don't see Optaya resisting that. It'd be good money and good name, but fairly safe fight maybe. Don't know. He's just a big guy, big guy. Other news, obviously, Lomachenko retires. You know, love or hate him, fantastic fighter. I've always found him really entertaining to watch. He's had a great career. I'm always sad that the Haney fight never happened. I get why. I think both, well, people will have opinions, but both kind of seem to walk away from it. Financially, it never seemed to make sense. Haney said the figures didn't add up for a fight, and then from his perspective, you know, many people think he lost that, including me. I don't think it was a robbery. I had Loma winning. But, you know, it's a shame for him. But either way, these things happen in boxing all the time. But yeah, great career. I love seeing fighters retire healthy, fit, and loaded. You know, I'm sure I saw the other day about Danny Williams potentially fighting again, which just like makes my heart sink. Just such a shame. I don't know his situation. I've looked actually on social media quite a bit for stuff about Danny Williams recently. So if anyone's got any footage of any interviews and stuff, I'd be really interested in that. I grew up watching boxing in the 90s and noughties when I really got into it, and Danny Williams was a big part of that. I loved him. I thought he was great. The Mark Potter fight, which I've got on the channel, I've got a hash up of that fight. It's great, and you know, he was a good fight. And obviously got that win against Tyson. I know it was at the end of his career, but still, what a name to get on your ledger. And it's just a shame for me to see Danny fighting on. If I'm not, just ignore what I've just said. Just, you know, pretend I didn't say it. So I don't. In fact, I'll check after I've made this, and then if I've said it, I'll remove it. And if I don't remove it, it'll still be here. So I might remove this bit of me say. We'll see. Anyway, I think that's it. I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. There's nothing massively exciting, but you know, it's been an interesting week. This is the bit, right? So ring my bell.
Ding.
Click on the notification. No, that's the same thing, isn't it? Ring my bell. Click on the like button. Follow me. Subscribe to me, and then follow the rest of the social media. Support us. Comment in the comments. That's where you would do it. Tell me what you think. Am I full of shit? Am I right? Give me your opinions. I'm interested. It's hard going YouTube, and you've got to keep on it. So any support I can get from you guys, fucking Is that right? Oh, terrible. Like a bad swear as well. I'll beep it. Yeah, any support from any of you is really appreciated. And yeah, see you soon.